Hello, everyone. It's Tony, and I am back with another fabulous episode of Women In. I cannot wait for you to learn more about my guest today. It is something I'm very passionate about. But before we dive into my guest, let's have you learn about what the heck you're listening to. Women In is a podcast that celebrates women and the individuals in their lives who are lifting them up. You're going to hear from an amazing person in my life today, and she's going to share her stories to inspire the others to support all the extraordinary women around them. This is a space to be disruptive, forward-thinking, and change agents for humankind. It is uncensored, fun, and curiosity-driven. I'm passionate about a lot of things, but one of the things I'm most passionate about is breaking down barriers for my kids' generation. It's equal parts about my guests and the places we came into each other's lives, whether it be the Kalamazoo Wings, Mindfulness Elevated, Tony Will Coaching, or you happen to be in my family and friends circle. My guest today is Silvia Subirana. She's a clinical psychologist and head of content and development for My Dry 30, which is an app that helps users transform their relationship with alcohol and find greater meaning and fulfillment. By combining her master's in clinical psychology with the app's tools like hypnotherapy, journaling, and so much more, Silvia takes a holistic approach focusing on the powerful connection between mind and body to inspire lasting personal growth and intentional living. Hi, Silvia.
Hi, I'm really excited to be here.
I am so thrilled to meet you. And this is the first time, just for my listeners, that Silvia and I are meeting. And this is not unusual because one of the first questions I ask is how we met. So let's talk about that because I so believe in the power of connection through relationships. So Silvia, how are you and I introduced?
So we were introduced by Steve, which is, I believe he came as a guest to your podcast some episodes ago. And I went as a guest to his podcast. And I really, really enjoyed our conversation. And he then, sent an email to us both saying, I think this connection would be good. And I really agree.
Yeah, I'm excited. We just talked a little bit before we started recording, and I was like, oh, let's just hit the record button because there's so much where I talk about at the open that I'm passionate about. And so Steve Lentini was a podcast guest of mine, and he has a podcast called Thinking Differently. And for those of you who haven't listened to his podcast episode, we talked a big chunk of the podcast was about his near-death experience and how it changed how he thinks. One of the things that I'm really passionate about is, and one of the questions I have is, what have you changed your mind about recently? And so Steve and I talked a lot about how that experience affected him and changed his mind. One of the things that I changed my mind about, and Silvia did too, because we talked a little bit about this off air, is I stopped drinking 4+ years ago, and Silvia stopped 5+ years ago. So I want to start there, Silvia, because I really want to spend a lot of time talking about My Dry 30. As we're recording this right now, we're in the very early days of January, which around the world has become such a popular phenomenon of dry January. So let's start with your personal story about why you chose to stop drinking.
So it was, as I said before, it was a bit organic for me. It was not that I decided a specific date, I'm just going to stop drinking and that's it. I found out that I was having a lot of stomach and gut issues in general. So the first thing that the doctor told me was obviously to give up alcohol. And I was never a big drinker, so it was not a huge change for me. But then when I was back to being healthy, I just didn't crave it. I was not interested anymore. I was more interested in developing other parts of myself in order to be more in touch with, my beliefs and what I wanted to do, right? And how to have fun. I obviously had to reevaluate a lot of aspects in my life because when I stopped drinking, I was 21. So I was still in uni and I was, surrounded by people that were drunk every single weekend. And it was challenging at some points, but I never regretted it once.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you would mind sharing how old you were when you quit. So you quit drinking when most people are ramping it up, right? Or they're legally able to. So tell me about that experience, like what that was like at 21 years old, because you can offer some wisdom here in this space because I was just before you and I were recording, my son is turning 21 in 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And and he's been open about his struggles with alcohol with me and other substances. And part of the fear is the beliefs around, well, I'm 21, this is what I should be doing, right? This is what my friends are doing. So you said it was interesting. It's like how I had to redefine how I had fun and who you're spending your time with, right? What did that look like for you? Was it hard?
Well, it wasn't really that hard. It was difficult at start when I realized that people weren't as fun when going out. I
Mhm.
was like, people are just having very pointless conversations. Is that it? Is that what I was doing before? Like, I cannot believe that, right? Um, but later on, I realized, okay, what do I really like doing? And for example, I love dancing. I've always loved going to the dance floor and spending hours there. So I was like, I might as well just go to the dance floor for longer and I don't know, look for people that like dancing and like spending time, I don't know, mingling and talking to others instead of just binge drinking, right? So I started understanding a bit more who each person of my surroundings I could trust for different specific things. Like, for example, I know that this one really likes dancing, so I'm going to go to the dance floor with her. I know that this person really likes meeting new people, so I'm going to do that with her, right? So, um, even though these people might, like, most of them were drunk while doing that, I I remember thinking, these people are so drunk that they're not going to remember what I am doing. So I am going to try different things. I am going to be more in touch with what I want to do. I'm going to be silly. I'm going to try different things to see how I can have fun. And if I embarrass myself, nobody's going to remember, right?
I
So
love that. You're
that's what,
so right.
yeah. And that's, I started playing with that. Like, okay, what if I do this? What if I do that? And then I saw, little by little, I saw what worked for me and how, um, what part meant fun, like meant that I was fun for me. So yeah, and I just ditched the part that wasn't fun.
Yeah, I love that. What you're saying is you had an experimental mindset and you were like, okay, which one of my friends likes to dance? Which one of my friends likes to go and have experiences? And you were really strategic in thinking about who you want to spend your time with and doing what. And you know what's interesting when you were talking about you love to dance? You know how many people drink because they think that's the only way they can get out there and dance? And you're like, "No, I love to dance, so I'm going to go do this. I don't need alcohol to get out there and
Hmm.
dance." It's pretty
Yeah,
powerful.
definitely. Yeah, because again, even if you don't know how to dance, nobody's gonna remember. Like, you just dance and have fun, and that's it. Like, there's not. We have so many insecurities, and we think that everybody's gonna look at what we do, but in reality, that's not true. People are so worried about how they look, about how everything,
Hmm.
that they don't look at others, right? So everybody's just worrying about something that people are not looking at. So that's what I realized back then. And I was like, yeah, if I just want to, if I dance, I want to dance. So I'm just going to go into the dance floor. And I'm not the best dancer in the world, but I was like, why not? I'm having fun. Who cares?
Yeah, and that's the key. And you're so right. And this probably leads to your work. And I'm interested to know what led you to get your master's degree in psychology. It like nobody's looking at you per se, like on the dance floor or me. They're too busy worried about themselves. But we seem to think the whole world's watching us, and that's not true. But we
Hmm.
create these meanings in certain situations, and the reality is it's not true. So.
Hmm.
It's such a great point. Just have fun. Like, what is fun to you or what interests you? And that's where I talk with a lot of my clients about, like, what are you interested in? You don't have to, like, be passionate about it yet, but what is interesting to you? What do you want to check out? It doesn't have to be dancing. Maybe it's knitting. Maybe it's skiing. Maybe, who knows,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
It could be anything. So, talk to me about what was it? Did your desire, when you stopped drinking organically, did that lead you to what you were already studying at university, or were you already on this pathway to understanding and learning about psychology? Tell me what led you there, and did it have
I
anything to do with
was
drinking?
sorry. Yeah, so I was already studying psychology. I was pretty much finishing my degree. So it was, um, at first for me, it didn't have much connection because I stopped drinking because of a health issue related to my gut, but I was already interested in mental health and other aspects, right? So for me, it didn't have any sort of links at the moment, at that time. But then I realized that my gut issues were quite related to how I was feeling about the stress that I had during my uni years. And I started realizing the or how important the connection between the mind and the body was, because we always focus in the mind and we treat the body as if it was a completely different thing, but they are so linked and way more than we can even think of, right? And yeah, so that's how I, little by little, I realized, okay, my body was saying something, was screaming something, because I wasn't taking care of my stress, right? So because of being stressed for a long time and other things happening, later on, then my body needed to scream in another way. So I started looking a bit more of how could I have that or take that into account with my future patients, right? Because I had just finished my degree and I needed to do my master's because I'm from Spain, and in Spain you need to do a master's degree in order to be able to have patients. Okay. So the training is 6 years long. And so the master's was not really a choice for me. I was just like following the path that I had to be qualified. And I just started researching a bit more about things, as I said before, things that could complement therapy per se, because there's so many tools out there that are so helpful. Hypnotherapy, mindfulness, meditation, many things, EMDR, like there's many tools that I could make a massive list, and probably that we could add 100 more. So that's what I wanted to do, learn tools to help people, right? And that's how I started getting interested in hypnotherapy. And I saw that there were hypnotherapy programs for gut issues, which I was very interested in researching about that because I had never learned about that while I was having the gut issues. And for other aspects, right? To quit smoking, for example. And then one day I found this idea of a program that was getting started, that is My Dry 30 Today, that uses hypnotherapy to help people have a better relationship with alcohol. And I became very interested by it because I was like, this is a combination of the tool that I've been researching in hypnotherapy, and one of my values or one of my lifestyle choices, right, which is not drinking and having fun and living my life without alcohol. So helping people understand that and how they can have a very good life without any substance was very powerful for me. I was like, yes, I want to help people doing this. And that's how I contacted the team, which at that time was very small. Yeah. And they were very interested because, of course, I had all the knowledge and I was already certified by then. I had already finished my master's. And yeah, that's how I got involved in this program, and I've loved it every day. I think it's such a powerful tool, and it can do a lot of good to many people.
Yeah, so it's interesting because when Steve connected us via email, and then I looked up because I hadn't heard of it, and you and I were talking earlier before I hit record, and this program is what, 3 or 4 months old. This mydry30.com, so it's new, right? And obviously we're out talking about it to get people interested and using the product. So what was interesting though and timely when I was looking, I was like, wow, I just started to explore hypnotherapy. And I'm using an app right now. I just started within the last 2 weeks called Hypnobox. And so to see this, and I was like, ooh, I'm intrigued. Because let's talk about hypnotherapy right now as like a whole. So I think some people think of hypnotherapy as like, someone's hypnotized and then they start, acting like a chicken or whatever they show, that type of stereotypical stuff. How would you describe what hypnotherapy really is? And then will you connect that to hypnotherapy helping people with their relationship with alcohol? How does that work?
That is a very interesting point, because I think movies have ruined hypnotherapy a little bit, or hypnosis, for a lot of people. And because the first thing people think when you think of hypnosis or hypnotherapy is exactly what you said, acting like a chicken or robbing a bank, right? And that is not it. So when you are in trance, what we call it, when you're being hypnotized, you are still conscious of what's going on around you, what you're listening to. You don't go unconscious. You're still aware of what's happening. But what's happening is that the hypnotherapy, like through the hypnotherapy, we get the person into a very deep state of relaxation where all the worries, all the problems, all the conscious noise just gets dialed down, so we can be more in touch with our inner self. That person can be more in touch with their unconscious, right? And they are more open to suggestions. Again, suggestions that they're going to do if they are aligned with their values and with what they want to do. If I'm suggesting go rob a bank, you're not going to go rob a bank, because that is not what you want to do. But if I'm suggesting make better choices, choose Diet Coke instead of non-alcohol beverage, right? Then as you are interested in changing that, you were going to be able to do so more easily. That's basically how it works.
So yeah, and let me, I'm going to see if I understand this as I'm hearing it, because it is, and when I do the hypnotherapy, it talks about deeper levels of relaxation, and it counts, at least Hypnobox, it's probably similar, like counts you down from 10 down to 1. And so basically it's almost opening the subconscious in a way, because the brain is not fighting the thoughts as much, because the conscious mind often can say one thing, but the subconscious is totally different. And that's where cognitive dissonance can come into play, right? Like when the conscious and subconscious are fighting. So is that like what hypnosis is doing, like creating a growth mindset or an open mindset?
Yeah, it makes you be more, as you said, open to different things. Because to explain it very easily, our brain creates neural paths between the brain cells, right? And the brain doesn't know what's good and bad. The brain just wants to save as much energy as possible, because the brain needs to do so many things for our bodies, right? That they need to optimize the energy. So the brain says, okay, you do this a lot, so this neural path, I'm gonna build it very strong. It's not like a one lane, it's a motorway, right? This path is very strong, so I'm just gonna reinforce it, so now I can spend less energy on that, because you do it very often. But that path might be very, very very wrong for you, might not be very beneficial for you, right? So what hypnotherapy does is suggesting a different path that might be more beneficial for you, and little by little reinforcing that path without you having to do it with your willpower, because it's very difficult sometimes to change those paths. For example, with an alcohol behavior, when you are used to drinking alcohol or other substances, it's extremely difficult to go to that other path, right? Because there's many other things that come into that equation, right? Like urges and like tolerance and all those things come into the equation, which makes it even more difficult. So hypnotherapy is a very useful and powerful tool, because hypnotherapy makes that first path to lose power, and then little by little gives power to another path that is healthier.
Okay, that makes sense, because so with alcohol, for instance, we talk about neural pathways. First of all, the brain is plastic, which means we can connect new neural pathways, because at any age, it does not matter if you're 21 or if you're 101 or just born. You can change, period. You can change anything in your life that you want, especially when it comes to thought work. That's what we're talking about here. So, and then that results in, when you do the thought work, can result in behavior change. So, for instance, in my situation, I did not like my relationship with alcohol. I wanted to change that. This was not a light switch approach, where how I phrase this is, if you walk into a dark room and you're like, I have a problem, I can't see, you flip the light switch on, problem solved, you can see. That's not what this is. This is like watering a seed. Like, you plant the seed and you water it, and then the sapling comes out and it slowly grows over time through repetition into a beautiful, strong oak tree that can withstand the elements, i.e. life. It's a metaphor for life. So this is helping create a new neural pathway and reinforce it. And so I want to make sure I understood that correctly, and I'm reiterating it correctly to my audience.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So my question then is, this isn't something that you do necessarily alone. And by you do the hypnotherapy alone. But what I mean is, it's a tool in the toolkit. So maybe you're reading what we call Quitlet, like books on quitting, or you're in a support group, or you have a coach that, like I do a lot of coaching in this space. It's a tool in the toolbox. It's not like the silver bullet. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. Again, as I said at the beginning, I was looking for, when I got involved in hypnotherapy and stuff like that, I was looking for tools to bring to therapy as a complement, not as the only thing to do, right? Yes. So that's why the program not only focuses on hypnotherapy. It's the biggest tool, but it's not it's not unique in the program, because we understand that there's many other ways to work, and there's many other aspects to tackle as well. Because someone that has had not a very healthy relationship with alcohol might have other things impaired. For example, their self-esteem might be very, very low. Their relationships and other connections might be like that. One may have had troubles because of that, right? Because it's very easy for people to have arguments while they're being drunk or with other substances. So there's many aspects in one's life that can be impaired because of alcohol, and we try to take care of all those, or as much as we can. So hypnotherapy is the biggest tool. The program is 30 minutes a day during 30 days. And then out of those 30 minutes, 15 is hypnotherapy. So it takes half of the days, like each day. But the other 15 minutes are 5 minutes of stretching. And we contacted a very knowledgeable physiotherapist, and that's also very knowledgeable in yoga and Pilates, and very like stretching and all these kind of movement. And she created a little video, 5-minute video of exercises to release tension from the hips and from other parts of the body that store a lot of emotion as well. And then we also offer 5 minutes of journaling questions where you can think of many, many things, because we understand that journaling sometimes it gets hard. Like, and many people say, yeah, just write a diary, it's very useful. But you're like, what do I write? I'm here, like, what do I write about? There's some, like, I don't have any idea, right? So that's why we give some journaling questions, so people have a path to follow, and every day they change, and they can be related to any aspect of mental health in general, relationships, like anything. And then there's another 5 minutes of reading about a specific topic. For example, as we said before, self-esteem, because self-esteem is very impaired when you usually drink alcohol, or formation of habits, or the difference between happiness and pleasure, right? So little pills of knowledge, right, to help people understand what their process is about and how they can improve in many, many different ways. And apart from that, which is what what you should do every day, like what our users do every day, there's different like pop-ups and things that we add. And my favorite one are connection days, which are, as I said before, connections or relationships might be impaired, right? So we offer connection days. And for example, the first one is gratitude, be thankful. So you have a pop-up that day and it says, hi, grab your phone and write a quick text message being grateful to someone that has done something that you appreciate in your life. It takes 2 minutes and you make their day, and it makes your day making them happy, right? Because it's someone that you appreciate. So these little things are very easy, very fast things to do. We keep asking people to do, users, because they're very powerful and they're part of the process as well.
Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned that. I got a text yesterday from one of my friends out of the blue, and it was just such a cool text, and it made my day. I was like, oh, that was nice, you know? Mm-hmm. And so it is something, and gratitude is a huge part of my practice in terms of just different tools in the toolkit. So what is the, I guess, success rate? Like, was there beta testing done on these groups or before the business was launched, and on success rates? I'm sure you would get people would ask this, and it's probably on the website. Like, what is considered successful in this space? Like drinking reduction, complete removal? How do you all measure that?
So again, we don't want to demonize alcohol. Like, I'm not drinking and it's part of my lifestyle, right? But I'm never gonna demonize anybody that decides to moderate, to have a better relationship with alcohol, right? Because I understand that everybody has different interests, they want to do different things in life, right? And I totally agree with that. So what the program wants to do is to help people understand what the relationship is with alcohol and what they want to do consciously, right? If that is completely quitting or moderating, that is up to them. And we accept both paths. So our success rate is not for people to quit and continue dry for months, because some people do that, but some people don't. So our success rate is to see at the end of those 30 days if people believe that they have learned about their relationship with alcohol and they have reduced their intake. And that is very, very high. We're at over 80% because people understand the importance of being conscious of when you drink, because there's so many people in the world that drink only to numb their emotions and to cope with problems. And that is not a way to heal. That is not a way to address those problems, because they're not going to go away. No. You're just numbing your emotions for, let's say, 5 hours, and then you go to sleep, and then the next day they hit you even harder because they're still there. So by doing all the program, people say, okay, I have become more understanding of what I need, and maybe instead of getting a drink after a bad day, I need to go for a walk instead, or I need to call a friend, right? And we've had a lot of success in that, because we don't try to achieve something that's unachievable. We just want to give people the tools to make better decisions for themselves.
Yeah. You raised so many good points there. In my coaching business, for Mindfulness Elevated, I'm a coach that will coach reduction or removal, because I believe, I don't think reduction of drinking is celebrated enough. That is a huge step, and moderating your drinking is not easy to do, especially if you liked drinking the way I did. But the proverbial you, not you, Silvia, but anyone listening to this. So reduction is such a great thing to celebrate, and it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. anything in life. So I just chose not to moderate because it would be so much effort on my part that I just don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. But I'm always open to new tools. And so as I've been kind of experimenting with hypnotherapy the last couple of weeks, I've just been fascinated by it, and really in particular around the sleep component. So what happens when someone falls asleep during the being hypnotized? Is it still working?
It is. However, I would say it's more beneficial when the person is awake. But the brain, if you fall asleep during hypnotherapy, you don't really, as the hypnotherapy is only 15 minutes long, you don't have time to get into a very deep sleep. So the phase of sleep that you're in is still very light, so you're able to listen to the hypnotherapy. So it's still effective. However, we encourage people to not be tired when they do it. For example, not do it inside of the bed, for example, because that's an easy place to fall asleep, right? Yeah, exactly. So what I like doing is, for example, I like to do it sitting down on the sofa, for example, or in a chair instead of laying down, because then when you're sitting down, your body doesn't get into that association of, okay, I'm laying down, then I'm going to go to sleep, right? So there's little tricks that help you not fall asleep. But also, we made it 15 minutes, not only because everybody has 15 minutes a day and it's easy, but also because they are already effective, and then you're not as it's not as easy for you to fall asleep in only 15 minutes, right?
Yeah. Tell me the difference between hypnosis and meditation.
So they are quite similar, but in meditation, they don't really suggest changes. They only want, like, meditation is to get into a deep, relaxed state. So that is common with hypnotherapy. However, in the hypnotherapy, as I said before, there are suggestions to open your mind, to make better choices, depending on what the hypnotherapy is about, right? So it's more focused on a specific topic, whereas meditation is more to get into a state of relaxation, but maybe you do visualization where you see that you're walking through a forest, or you do different things, right, that are not linked to a specific purpose. So you're just getting that state of relaxation, which can be very, very powerful and very useful depending on what you want to do, right? But to achieve the goals, to get in touch with the unconscious and make those changes, then hypnotherapy is the tool that you need.
So this is for a 30-day program, because it's called
Yeah.
My Dry 30. So what happens after the 30 days? Where does someone go from there?
So we are working actually on a second part of the program that's going to be 60 days, and it can be either 60 days dry or 60 days moderation, right? But we haven't launched that yet. But right now, if someone finishes the program, we encourage them to either repeat those 30 days if they want to keep going, because they're completely encouraged to do so. And if you listen to something on day 1 and then you want to you listen to something on day 30, right? You by day 31, you're not gonna remember what you listened to on day 1 or day 2, right? So if you repeat those audios, that's completely fine. They're still useful, right? So we encourage people to do that if they want to keep going. And the app also has a toolkit, and we also offer coaching sessions if they want to go further with that. And the toolkit has very interesting exercises to work on different aspects of mental health in general, how to create better relationships, how to have a better self-knowledge, how to cope with rage, many different tools and exercises. And also there's meditation audios as well, like box breathing and visualizations, as I said before, that can really complement the practice or the journey of reducing the stress related to drinking.
When this was created, what was the decision behind focusing on alcohol instead of like cigarettes or food or gambling, or shopping, or what? Why was alcohol the main focus?
The man that had this idea, he's a salesman, and he realized that he had closed a lot of sales because he was drinking with his clients. And he started looking and seeing that alcohol was absolutely everywhere. And he was like, how can this be possible? I'm working and I need to drink to be in the same wavelength as my clients. And he started thinking of how, alcohol was everywhere, and thought, there's a lot of people that are struggling with this. I want to do something good for the world. So that's why he started contacting people and getting interested in hypnotherapy, because he had done all the hypnotherapy programs for other reasons, right? Like, for example, for gut issues, which is very famous right now. So he was aware of that, and he thought, if it's out for gut issues and for smoking, to quit smoking, why not for alcohol? So yeah, that's why he started researching, and then everything went from there. But we are thinking of maybe in the future expanding it to other things, because we are seeing that it's a very powerful app and very powerful tool in general, that can be expanded to many other substances or behaviors.
Yeah, that's really cool. Now I want to shift gears just a little bit. This might be where the interviews go a little different on mine, on Women In, because I want to know more about you, Silvia, which is, who are the women in your life that helped you become the woman you are today, doing this amazing work, helping people reduce or remove alcohol?
So maybe it's a bit cliche, but my mom really helped me. She's been very open to understanding me and trying to guide me into what I wanted to do with my life. She was always very open to talk to about different paths and different options. And when I said that I might want to do psychology, she didn't know much about it, but she spent the night researching different things that you could do when you study psychology. And then literally the next day, when she was taking me to school, she said, I researched a lot about it yesterday and I love it for you. I think it's a very good choice. So she was always very supportive, and that is really, really helpful. So I was very lucky with that.
Yeah, and not cliche at all, because our moms are such important parts of if we're a mom, or are the moms who gave us life. Like, they don't get enough credit, right? So to be able to sit here and say, Mom, thank you, and you're just so amazingly supportive and open-minded, especially learning about what you chose to do for a living. Like, that's so powerful. So, and you have some girlfriends you've mentioned in your life too. So you don't have to name names, because there's always someone that's forgotten, but obviously there's some girlfriends that are important in your life too.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I always say I'm very lucky, because studying the degree and the master's degree in psychology, you meet a lot of people that have such deep understanding of the human being and emotions, and they have such an incredible emotional world, and such an open mind, that I am so blessed with the friendships that I have. I always say that I am a bit biased, because, like, I would say 85% of my friends are psychologists. But we get into very deep talks about things that I could never talk about with other friends that have not studied anything related to that. And for me, that is a treasure.
Yeah, I find psychology so fascinating, and I work in pro sports, so it's totally different. Silvia, I want to thank you so much for being a part of the Women in podcast. I have thoroughly enjoyed learning all about mydry30.com, and I am such an advocate for any tool we can add in our toolkit if reducing or removing alcohol is one of my listeners' goals. I can't wait to try it out myself. For anyone listening to the podcast, if you're interested in trying out mydry30.com, it's really affordable. It's $30, and you can find it in the App Store under My Dry 30. And there you can find everything you need to know on social media at Instagram under My Dry 30 app. And then there's a website at mydry30.com. And if you want to reach Silvia herself, her contact information is sylvia at mydry30.com. And for my podcast listeners, you can get a 20% discount if you go to mydry30.com/podcast discount. So check all that out. I can't wait for you to experiment with this awesome tool. And if you're looking to connect with me, I am not hard to find. You can reach me on any of my social media platforms, Facebook and LinkedIn at Tony Lentini Will, and on Instagram I'm Tony Will. Or you can come to a K-Wings game. I'd love for you to come out to Kalamazoo Wings game at kwings.com. Or you can find me at mindfulnesselevated.com or TonyWillCoaching.com. Until next time.